All right, shalom, shalom. It's your trained servant Enoch. Some call me Horace. I don't mind Horace because my dad actually did do right by me, I believe. He's a great man. I'm Horace Davis Jr. I'm making this video to just tell my story of how I came into the truth and give my testimony of Pastor Charles Dowell Jr. I would say my journey kind of began whenever my son was to be born. So, that's when my gears started to turn. I started to become more serious about my spiritual foundation. At the time, I was going to church at Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship with Pastor Tony Evans, and I was starting to get involved in a lot of his classes that were requirements to be taken, to become, leadership in the church. And I wasn't looking to become leadership in the church, but I was definitely looking to actually learn, deeper, to get more spiritually rooted. So that's why I was taking some of the courses. There was a course I took called the Kingdom Agenda. And while I was taking that course, I met Brother Galen. He's not in the ministry anymore, but I met Brother Galen while I was taking that course. And I was just in Walmart, ran into him. We talked a little bit about security because we both did security at the time. And I still do security. And so in the course of our conversations, I noticed he made some biblical references, but they had a different flavor to them. So I started to ask him questions. And I remember asking him this question specifically. I asked him, where does your faith come from? And, this led him to kind of open up and talking more about, the truth of Hebrew Israelites and his pastor, Pastor Dowell. And now, when he first mentioned Pastor Dowell, the name rung a bell because I knew I had heard this name before. My wife actually put me on to Pastor Dowell originally because she watched his videos because she liked food prep and some of his financial advice and things like that. And I remember watching a lot of Pastor Dowell videos, and I really just thought pastor was just like, kind of like a title, just like Dr. Dre called himself a doctor, right? But yeah, like he's a real pastor. Of course, I learned that later. But I just remember from that time, Pastor Dowell really just seemed like he made a lot of sense. Everything he said made a whole lot of sense. And he seemed like a guy that was always on the move. Most of his videos that I would see, it was him, driving, going to do something. And he really would just drop gems, like a father would drop gems on his children. And that was my impression of him. But whenever Brother Galen mentioned Pastor Dowell, that's when I went back and referenced some of the stuff that I saw from him and some of the things that we talked about. I went to the book myself and I researched and looked into history and confirmed that some of the things that Brother Galen was saying. And then what I did was I took the advantage of the situation with me being in that course under Pastor Tony Evans. And I started to ask the questions that I didn't know if they could answer or not, that I had confirmed the answers to. And so it was really weird for me whenever I brought those same questions up in the class to a teacher, who was pretty much right hand to Tony Evans and had taught for so many years or whatever. And the way he was just, tiptoeing and dancing around the answers to the questions that I had, it was really alarming. And I just kind of played it cool. And one Sunday after class, whenever I was asking him these questions and he was struggling to give me answers, I was just I was shaking my head. Like, I was just like, okay. And that was the last time that I ever stepped foot in a church. And from then on, what I did was, I started to deep dive and really binge watch Pastor Dowell's videos to see, what was really his perspective spiritually. I probably wouldn't even spoke like that then, but what was his perspective, I guess religiously, or what did he think of God, and, what did he really believe? And then I had to actually go to the book and search out to see if what he was saying was true, which he encouraged. And I did that, and it was about a 9-month period that I was doing that, just watching videos and finding things out. My eyes were being opened little by little to subject by subject, holidays, drinking, the people of the book, and just a lot of things, the curses. A lot of truth was being found out, and that was actually my main prayer at the time because of my son being born. And I said, I definitely want to be able to teach my son the truth. I definitely want to raise him that way. I want him to always walk in the truth. That was my main thing. That was my main prayer that I had at the time. And I remember actually, Pastor Tony Evans, he had a series at the time about truth. And looking back, yeah, some of the stuff he touched on actually was the truth, but obviously a lot of that, the truth of the book wasn't being walked out in Christianity. But I digress. So as I was finding out these truths, what started to happen was I started to change how I move. So I used to be I did in the past, I pledged a fraternity, and I would hang out with my fraternity brothers, and it really wasn't about anything. I mean, we just hung out, just because we were frat brothers, really. I mean, they were doing a lot of just vanity, really, when I think about it. Yeah, we went to events, we danced, we were entertaining, things like that. And I got to a point where I was just like, man, I'm really not rocking with this. And especially learning the truth, I was just like, I just stopped hanging out with them. And so essentially I lost all my friends, all my little friend group I had, and all the people who I had, all the pool I had access to in different places. And I said, I'm not with it. So I left it. And then that was another truth that I came into too, about the whole Greek affiliation. And honestly, in retrospect, what I was really looking for whenever I pledged the fraternity was what I have now. What I was really looking for was a fellowship that would influence me to be a better man, a better person, to be more righteous, to be what I should be. That's what I was really looking for. I was looking for a sense of unity, solidarity. I was really looking to improve because I know I needed to. And a lot of brothers in the fraternity, had called themselves men of faith, Christians and things like that. So, that was, at the time, that was my attempt at finding a fellowship to better myself. And that's what happened. But after that 9 months, what happened was I reached out to Galen to be able to fellowship. And so that's when I started to fellowship with Straightway for the first time. And I've been in the ministry now for about 2.5 years. And what I could say about Pastor Dowell is he still makes a lot of sense. And I could understand how a person like me can't easily receive him. It's because honestly, he really reminds me a lot of my dad. Him and my dad are the same age. They got some of the same mannerisms. You know, they say some of the same things. You know, they both preach the word. I mean, to this day, when I get on the phone with my dad, we end up having a conversation about the Bible and about God and about family, and that's all we ever talk about. You know, he checking on me and, you know, his grandchildren, things like that. You know, this man, Pastor Dowell, reminds me a lot of my earthly father. And so that's why I went just learning about this culture of Israelites and this heritage that I have, and coming to the land and seeing and experiencing the fellowship and things like that. It gave me a oddly familiar feeling. It's like I was coming back. It's like I've been here before. It's like I was used to this, but it's like I was looking for it the whole time. I don't know how to explain that, but it's like I've been looking for this. And almost immediately, I'm like, in my mind, deep down, I'm like, no, this is it. This is it. These are my people. This is how we move. I like this. And it excites me because now that, you know, I'm having children, now I have the truth. Now I have the culture that I can raise them in, you know, and do my part. Because, you know, that's what I've seen growing up. You know, my dad, that's what he did with me. You know, him and my mom, and just the way I was raised. My dad was he was there for me more than my mom. Of course, I'm close to my mom as well, but there was times where my dad, he was kind of, you know, he kind of had more stick-to-itiveness, a lot of perseverance, if you will, you know, when it came to me. And I want to do the same thing, you know, for my family. I want to be there for my family. I want to teach my family in righteousness, teach them the book and things like that. And I definitely get that influence from Pastor Dowell. I would say, like, the first time, you know, I came to the land and, you know, I hugged Pastor Dowell, you know, I felt it was like a warmth. It was like a family type warmth that I felt. Now, you know, you can tell, you know, just approaching the man, like, physically, like, you know, like, I get a sense of powerfulness, like, okay, cool. And for me, especially nowadays, I take comfort in that, like, okay, this person is very comfortable and strong, so I don't really have to worry about this person. So it wasn't really surprising, but, you know, that's the impression I had. And yeah, like, moving forward, the man still makes sense, and I'm moving forward in righteousness, man. I'm moving forward in this truth, and especially now, you know, living in the Tennessee area and being more plugged in with the saints. I'm excited about where this is going. So that is my story. I'm coming into the truth and my testimony of Pastor Dowell. Shalom.